Foreign governments and criminals are probing these systems every single day. We only have to think of real-life examples, an air traffic control system going down and disrupting flights, or blackouts that plunge cities into darkness, to imagine what a set of systematic cyber attacks might do. So this is also a matter of public safety.
It most certainly is a matter of public safety. You hear President Obama there talking about the cybersecurity threat. John Bachman alongside Vera Gibbons. President Obama identified specifically how a cyber threat or a series of cyber threat attacks could really transform everything, and that was taking place at Stanford University's summit there at the university. The president issued an executive order to combat the growing threat from home and abroad, declaring a national emergency to deal with that threat. But will it be enough? There's been talk of a law in Congress. Still nothing has materialized. Joining us now to go more in depth on this subject is attorney and Bentley University professor Stephen J.J. Weisman. Professor, thanks for being with us.
It's good to be with you.
I mean, I guess the question we ask every time we talk about this, is it going to take some sort of serious attack that we all feel before Washington has the political will to do some of these things that the president is talking about?
Yeah, you know, we really have already had these, and I hope it doesn't take anything worse. One of the courses I teach at Bentley University is white-collar crime, and coincidentally, the topic for April 1st's class had to do with state-sponsored economic crimes and white-collar crimes. And one of the things that didn't get a lot of play in the media about the president's executive order, it's not just for the kind of destructive attacks that he mentioned in the piece that you just showed, but also corporate espionage. China in particular has been stealing corporate secrets for a long time.
All right, we'll let you take that call and we'll get to Ellis real quick. Go ahead, Ellis.
No, listen, I have to tell you guys, I'm kind of skeptical about the U.S. government's ability to do anything about this. I mean, the cyber stalkers, right, and the hackers, they're not looking at what the law says or what the penalty is. In fact, many of them are overseas, well beyond the reach of our laws. As a citizen, and I'd love to hear Steve's thoughts on this, I wonder what we can do other than kind of say, well, gee, that's bad, but, you know, I got to go about my life. I have to use my credit card. I have to send email and use my computer. And I kind of hope for the best. And
I don't know about you guys, but I'm with Ellis on this. The only comfort I have in this whole situation is the fact that I know that I'm one of, you know, more than 1 billion people on this planet with bank accounts and stuff like that. Safety in numbers is all I can think of.
I'm with Ellis on this too. I mean, look at all the, you know, the breaches we saw over the holidays with the Target and Home Depot. I mean, consumers just passing around their cards, and I got into a lot of trouble there. So, you know, too little, too late. I mean, it seems like we're always on sort of the defense here, waiting for something bad to happen before we actually take action. What's your take on that, Stephen? Assuming you've taken the call and gotten off the line with your wife, you know, bring home a dozen eggs, some milk.
Clicked it off. Yeah, you know, there's something to what you're all saying. First of all, a lot of the kind of things that the president is talking about as far as the disincentives, you're right. Against criminal actors, this is not going to be the type of law that really makes any kind of attempt. This is aimed at states and companies. And you're right. Things aren't as bad as you think. They are far worse. And the kind of potential destruction that we face, not from just states, but also from terrorist groups, is significant. This, though, this piece of legislation, and it is going to take something with Congress working with greater detail, but this is the first time that they're talking about putting together, and we'll see what the regulations say, lists of sanctions against companies that are acting and against countries that are acting with these cyber attacks. And I think it's a good first step. Is it enough? Nowhere near enough, but I think it's finally a good start.
And maybe see more folks like President Obama specifically mention China and their role in this more often. I know he said, it kind of hinted at it, but be more direct and explicit with that. Let's change topics. We want to talk about this issue, what's taking place also at Stanford University. They're now offering free tuition to students whose parents make less than $125,000 a year. Professor, what's your take on that?
Well, you know, the cost of higher education, and it pays my salary, but the cost of higher education is way out of line. And I was listening to Elizabeth Warren speaking about it the other day and talking about the fact that students come out with crushing debt. So I do think that there has to be a better way of making college affordable for those who college is appropriate for.
You know, these kids come out with like $30,000 in debt, and I I saw statistics saying like a third of them actually graduate from college and will still be paying off this debt when their own kids go to college. So my concern is this sounds like a good idea in principle, but A, who's going to qualify for this? B, what are sort of the, the devil's in the details? Is there going to be? That's what I'm sort of worried about this in particular. I mean, I think it sounds almost too good to be true to some extent. What's your take, Professor?
Well, I've seen some of that go on as far as making the accessibility to education and making the accessibility to education, which really can help people, is a terrific thing. Here, I live in Amherst, Massachusetts, and Amherst College does a really good job of that. They have the kind of endowment where they can make this accessible. One of the things I liked about the Stanford thing is it's not totally all paid, and students who are in this do have to work summers and contribute, I think it's $5,000 towards their education so that they have something involved. Presently,
well, Steve, no, listen,
sure.
We all ought to praise Stanford. I mean, it's tough for a family making even $100,000, $125,000 a year to afford those kind of tuitions. Stanford's rich enough to do it, right? They have a $20 billion endowment, so you can do it. The people I would go to are these for-profit colleges. Those are the ones that are ripping off most of these kids, aren't they?
I couldn't agree with you more. I have a blog, scamicide.com, and every day we have a new scam or identity theft of the day. And frankly, the for-profit colleges, there are some legitimate ones out there, but there is so much abuse and taking advantage of people, and I really would have liked to see the government, which has acted in some instances, but not enough, come down on these people that really are taking advantage of people trying to use education online.
All right, everyone, we'll have to leave it there and let's take a quick break here. Thank you very much for being with us. Professor Weisman, always good to get your take. And of course, you'll make more money if you go to college. Statistics prove that, but hard to justify that if you got $200,000 in student loan debts coming out of school. We got the weather coming up right now. Here is Jessica Reyes with your Newsmax weather update.
Hey there, I'm Jessica Reyes with your weather from coast to coast. We'll start by the northwestern portion of the country, where showers are pretty much the big story for today. A lot chillier for today as we move by the Great Lakes, but partly sunny for the most part, so no rain through there. But speaking of rain, showers and thunderstorms, actually severe weather through the Tennessee Valley. It's pretty much stalled within that area, so the further inland you go, the more storms we are expected to see for our Friday. Not so much by the coastline, with temperatures ranging between the upper 70s and lower 80s. Now, speaking of rain, to kick off Easter weekend, we're dealing with some of that across the northeast as well, especially into parts of Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and even into parts of New York. And speaking of Easter, if you have any outdoor activities planned, here are some of your weather. Here's some of your weather for that day, and also here are some of your daytime highs to kick off the weekend.
Yeah, we really got to keep a close eye. This is the time of year when a lot of those severe storms, we saw the tornadoes in Moore, Oklahoma last week, so more severe weather was rolling through parts like Memphis, Tennessee yesterday, I think, and my parents' house in Atlanta. So
I'm hearing Massachusetts is going to get more snow.
I
That's
think I've seen
from.
some pictures. I
no.
mean, this is like the weather, the winter that won't stop, and it's almost like a cruel joke.
Boston's
Here we are,
already over its record.
Good Friday, Easter weekend, and it's still snowing in some parts of the world. We got much more coming up. We got our political panel coming to you. We're going to dig into what Tom Cotton had to say about the LGBT community as that debate rages in this country. The Religious Freedom Acts. More states are moving ahead, even though there's been some backlash in Indiana and Arkansas. Georgia's got one coming up too. We'll hear more about that coming up. We're back right after this commercial break.